Now, climate change affects us all. Millions around the world have already been made climate refugees. Now, in 2021, a UN report showed that 24 million people around the world were displaced by natural disasters. That's nearly twice as many as had to flee from war or conflict. Now, the UN Migration Agency is urging leaders at COP27 to include migration in their climate adaptation plans and support the most vulnerable countries. Well, let's speak to Tauhid Pasha, Head of Programme at the United Nations Migration Agency. Tauhid, thanks for being with us this morning. Just lay out for us the scale of people affected by climate change and having to migrate from their homes.
Well, as you said, your figures show that the figures are potentially quite big. And if we're looking in 2021 alone, more than 21 million people internally displaced due to climate-related events. So it's important that something has to be done. And it's great to see that in Sharm el-Sheikh, that you've got world leaders gathering, you've got all the relevant agencies there. And our argument is that migrants, people who are having to move because of climate change, they aren't just people who are affected, but migrants can actually play a role in actually combating climate change. So in the UK office, where we are based, where I am based, we have some of the largest diaspora communities in the world, and they're very active on climate change. And we're trying to get them a seat at the table because they send money back, and they are some of the most effective people who fight climate change.
Just lay that out in a bit more detail for us then. So you're saying diaspora communities can often send back remittances to their home country, and that can actually help the economies there and improve the fight against climate change.
Absolutely. For example, in the UK, we have one of the largest Bangladeshi diaspora communities in the world, and over 600,000 strong. They've been in this country for 50 years plus. They're sending about $2 billion in remittances on an annual basis. That's a huge number. They are the first ones to react after the floods struck earlier this year in June. The biggest floods that Sylhet has seen. Pakistan similarly. Jamaica is a small island state which is very much going to be affected by rising sea level. Again, the UK has more than 1 million Jamaican diaspora heritage people. These are all people who are taking action. They want to do something. And it's great that the UK government is being a leader in Sharm, and the UK actually has a lot more assets than we think. These communities are the ones who firstly react the quickest when disaster strikes, and secondly, the remittances they send back are actually essential to taking those countries forward in fighting climate change. But the point here is that we shouldn't just see migrant communities and diaspora communities as what we call cash cows that react after disaster strikes. They need to have a place at the table. They need to be part of the planning. In the UK, for example, with the Bangladeshi community, one that I'm from, we have experts who are on climate change. We have climate scientists. We have people who are working within government. These are people who want to invest back in their countries of origin, and they can do it in a sustainable manner.
Yeah, so just lay out for us what you think would be a successful outcome for COP27, because it does strike me that for the UN Migration Agency to be petitioning another part of the UN kind of lays out the problems that we face in trying to get some kind of workable solution out of these things.
No, but it's very much about solutions. We need to be going forward saying that, okay, the governments are trying to be active in this. We have the private sector who's being active. We have charities, but let's not forget those communities which are actually, they are the ones who care the most, the ones who have a heritage back in those countries, and they are the ones who can both play a role here in the UK in fighting climate change, and back in their countries of origin. And they are very, very effective people. They are actually part of the solution. So if you look at it with Pakistan this year, some of the biggest charitable efforts, the largest efforts, have been taken by the Pakistani community in Scotland, in England. However, if those same Pakistani diaspora in the UK, if their skills are recognized, their expertise in fighting climate change, and they are actually they're already opening up recycling plants. They're trying to fight the floods. They're trying to rebuild those areas that are affected. If they are at the table and the actions that they're taking are supported by the government rather than money being spent separately, if those communities and their actions are invested in, then that is part of the solution. And that's where the UN Migration Agency, who I work for, we're actually trying to support them in doing that. We're trying to get them that seat at the table.
Okay, Tauhid Pasha from the UN Migration Agency. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.